In this lesson, we'll take a deeper dive into the USD layers. Alright, so here we have the USD layers. Each one represents a different department, and I'm going to try to show you how to kind of work with them so you don't cause any issues down the pipe. Alright, so first thing you notice, there's this target icon over here, which basically tells us that this is the active layer. And it's very important to be on the correct layer when you're working on certain things. Now the cool thing about this, that we can create certain items or certain objects that will be only department dependent. So for example, if I create a camera, I could create it for all departments, or I could create it for only the animation department or only for the layout department. So how do I go about this? If I have a situation where I need both my animation and my layout department to get the camera, I could put them underneath a USD layer that will contain both of these departments, and then they can basically receive the camera. In this case, because I'm working locally, I don't really need to do that, because all I want to do is have the ability to turn on and off the use of the cameras. So under the layout department, I'm going to choose the layout department here, and I'm going to create a camera. So I could do it several ways, but the best way to do that is I'm going to add, in this case, a scope, because I don't want to move the camera by a top group. I just want to use the scope as a camera container, because the camera itself is going to be. So I'm going to write under scope here. Let's just do SE, sorry, and then here just write cam shot A. Alright, so it's going to be the first camera, and then inside I'm going to go right click here, add new, not material, add new prim, and we're going to go to geometry and choose a camera. Now notice that the camera has no data to move it, but if I focus on it and press the move tool, you can see that I can move it about like so. Right? It is, I am able to move it about, and I do have like translation controls. Okay, now if I go and mute the layer, you could see that the camera will disappear out of the hierarchy. Alright, so how do I create an iteration to this camera? Because by default it's over here. I can go ahead to the next layer down, which would be my shot camera. But before that, I just want to make sure that you understand this very well. Whatever I do to the top layer, the minute I save, it's going to affect the bottom layer and probably lock it in such a way that you won't be able to transform the camera. That is why usually the top layer, when I add in a object of any asset of any kind, if it's light or anything like that, I make sure that I don't keyframe or move it about before I save it. It's just like it's just a holder of that object. So I'm going to save. So when I go now and grab the camera, I could still move it, it will be fine. And if I go down to the next layer and move it, you see now it's locked because I moved it first. Alright, so I'm just going to undo, and undo again, and undo one more time, and I'm going to change here to the bottom camera, and we're going to save and see if that messes things up. No, there we go. So I make sure when I save that I'm on the right layer to save. Alright, so I'm going to now move this camera to where I want to see it, and let's look through the camera just so, and do that. Alright, so I'm looking, this is going to be my camera, I'm going to save its new position. Hooray. So if I go back to my camera here, right, you can see that my camera is placed over here and it's looking at the flag, but if I mute it, it will go back to origin. Alright, so unmute. If I grab the camera, it should be back in its place. Alright, that's great. But let's say I want to now have an animated camera. But I'm happy with this camera. I'm just going to rename this camera. Let's see if it'll let me. Yeah. See, now because I saved it and didn't name it and won't let me change the camera, all lost. I gotta all delete this camera and do it again, or just live with the camera 1 name. But for now, I'm gonna leave the camera 1 name. It's very important to rename. So what I'm gonna do here, it's because I want a new camera and I want to have an animated camera in this case. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new layer. So I'm gonna create a sub layer here, and we can drop it in there, and I'm double clicking it and I'm going to call it sub layer shot B. Yep. Alright, and for this one, go up here and I'm going to throw another camera into that scope. So let's add a new camera. Where is it there? Camera, and we'll call this one. We'll call this B. Alright. Actually, I don't want it in the same scope. I want it in a different scope, and I'll explain why in a minute. So let's do that, and I'll just drag it there, and now I'm going to save. Alright, so all of that is saved. Now, why did I put it in a separate scope? For me to animate this, I cannot animate the camera when it's in a USD stage environment. I need to edit it as a Maya file, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on the right layer to do this. And you'll notice once I say edit in Maya, it's going to change, it's going to open up all its edits. But because it's under the scope here, I don't want that this scope is going to be affecting the other camera, so I put it in a separate scope. And again, you should name everything properly. I just skipped it here just to maintain time and stuff. So let's go look through camera B, and you can see now that our camera has a Maya name. Alright, let's turn on some camera stuff, view here, horizontal, and make sure that that is like that. Alright, I'm going to get closer, and the animation I want to create is going to be, let's say, 250 frames. So I'm going to start the camera motion here, set keyframe, and go to the end. I'm going to just zoom in a bit, like that. And then we're going to do this. Alright, now that it's done, I'm going to make sure that I'm on the layer, and I'm going to go into the options, which I don't like when it does that, but it should have opened the options. Open the options, there we go. And I'm going to scroll down and make sure that animation data is turned on. That's materials, we don't care. Blend shapes is fine. I'm just going to see if there's anything I can turn on. See in advanced lighting, visible. Alright, I think that's all good. Alright, and I'm going to go merge. And you're going to see that it's going to run, and the camera has the keyframes have disappeared. I'm going to save at this point, and then we can look through the camera. So we want camera B, and it should zoom in. Now the one thing I have noticed is that these cameras, the focal length doesn't save for some reason. If anybody knows how to fix that, I would glad to hear that in the chat below. Let me see if I could fix. Fill. Sometimes you gotta play with this just to get the vertical. I guess it's not, doesn't want to change it. Actually, I could do this. There we go. So, yeah, but you can see we can bake in the animation, which is kind of cool. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. Make sure that you don't destroy anything. I could always mute that camera and it will remove it, and then I can switch to the other camera there, and I could always bring it back and we can go back to that camera and it'll still work. With that, I'm going to end the lesson, and in the next lesson we will look at working with character effects in Maya and how to create a flag animation and replace the current this cardboard flag with one that's got cache data on it. So I'll see you then.